You're listening to State of the Arts. We cover the art scene in St. Augustine, the nation's oldest city. From the people and organizations that create the art to the venues that display it, we cover it all, from artist to venue and everything in between. You're listening to State of the Arts. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for listening. I'm John Bashir, and this is State of the Arts. In this episode, we're going to continue to explore what is art and the process our artists go through to create it. Up first are internationally published authors and founding members of St. Augustine's Ancient City Poets, Chris Bodor and Michael Henry Lee. We take up the conversation with Chris explaining his process.
The obsession is 100% of the way I'm wired. A song comes on that the DJ's playing, and I have an artistic reaction to that rather than a normal human reaction to it.
Okay, differentiate between those two.
Yeah, so I'm someone who produces art. And if I'm standing next to someone who does not produce art, that person will have a different reaction than I will.
To what?
And I have a feeling that there are more people in this world who do not produce art, who are like consumers of art or audiences of art. There's a greater percentage of those people in the world than artists. So that's where I feel that I am an outsider looking in. I have certain skills and abilities and feelings and reactions that make me an artist, and I'm put in a scene, I'm put in a work environment, I'm put in a home environment to have an artistic reaction.
Let me ask you this. Is everyone capable of producing art?
If they want to.
I think everyone does, and sometimes they don't even
Some
realize
people,
it.
some people aren't wired that way. And I just know this from personal experience. I'll have a conversation with someone, and they'll look at me like I have 3 or 4 heads because they don't relate on an artistic level.
What I'm trying to get to is, what is an artistic reaction?
Then I need to clarify this by saying I'm talking about an artistic, the ability to produce art. That's the artistic reaction. And I might still be seeking this out. What on earth do I mean when I talk about an artistic reaction? It's a reaction where I want to document what's going on. I want to turn it into a poem, or it might be a film project, or it might be a lyric to a song that I'll never write. But I get myself in a situation where I need to grab a coffee cup and write it down, or I need to get a business card from my wallet and write it down.
That sounds like obsession to me.
Or I need to write it on my arm and walk around all day hoping I don't sweat off this thing that I've captured.
Right.
That's an artistic reaction.
Okay, and if I don't have one of those reactions, I'm not an artist?
No, if you have that reaction, then we can spend an hour together getting to know each other because we're like-minded and we can understand each other.
Right. Some of what you're saying is confusing to me, and I don't want anybody else to be confused by it.
Well, and I'm glad you're pointing that out, because these are things that I'm just thinking about, and when I find like-minded people, great. When I see people that don't understand what I'm talking about or don't get me, then I just write it off as, okay, well, they're not open to art, maybe. Lee Weaver was doing a performance piece at the time, scripted, about a homeless person. Mm-hmm. I said, Lee, I've never met you before, but please come to the poetry reading as your character. And I said, I will be the pissed off.
Were you there in?
I will. Yeah, this was. Oh, you talk about performance art.
Right.
I was at my zenith,
very cool.
And so.
Yeah, very interesting.
So I warmed up the mic. I said, everyone, thank you for putting the 15 names on the list. I'm going to call up the first person. And Lee Weaver came in a disheveled, right through the front door, and he's like, I want to read a poem. And I was like, come on, buddy. And I just played off of it. And I started to get upset. I swore for the first time at the open mic. because I was really mad.
You're putting on a character.
Exactly.
Though, right? Okay.
It was all
Right.
performance. And so he stumbles up and he reads a poem or recites a poem. I said, okay, buddy, I respect that, but we have a whole list of talented people coming up. And then I said, ladies and gentlemen, the part of the angry open mic facilitator was myself, Chris Bodor, and ladies and gentlemen, the homeless person was played by Mr. Lee Weaver. I know that, like, my wife, she, real deal, she said, I believe that. I saw his wedding ring, and I thought to myself, boy, that homeless guy must really have a story of why he didn't pawn that wedding ring. Here's a disheveled homeless guy that still has a beautiful wedding band on. That's how my wife had a reaction. Mm-hmm. So she had a reaction. So was that an artistic reaction? But she had a reaction to art, but she did not have an artistic reaction because she didn't go write a poem about it. That's how I'm trying to define all this.
Say that again.
When my wife saw that Lee Weaver's character had a wedding ring on, she started thinking about what was unfolding in front of her. Mm-hmm. She did not have an artistic reaction. She had a reaction to the art. If she had an artistic reaction, she would have picked up her camera and made a artistic photo of it with a close-up of the wedding ring and the guy.
So it didn't move her to create. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
So part of the artistic reaction is that which moves you to create? Is that fair to say?
And to think, yes, that we just had a half an hour conversation for me to figure out what the hell I'm trying to say. And that's what it's like living with me. So,
so there you go.
All right, guys. What is art?
Art who?
Oh. Yeah. I want to.
Art
Garfunkel?
Art artificial. Can you imagine lunch with me and Mike?
I had it written down, so I didn't want to forget it. I think art clarifies the mysterious and confounds the elementary. Meaning, if you take, because I'm a huge fan of a lot of different art, not just poetry. So you take like the old masters. They're attempting to depict the glory of God and put it down, on a canvas so somebody can at least look at it, respond to it. Haiku is a perfect example of making the elementary or confounding the elementary, making it very interesting, a leaf, a footprint.
How does it do that?
By the skill of the author or not. One of my favorite poems that is very, very minimalistic, and they loved it in Japan. Published it there as Mayflies, to be continued. You're familiar with the mayfly? Yeah. A mayfly has 24 hours to live. They have to mate, they have to do whatever they're going to do. That's Zen. I think art is very, what's the term? Well, for one thing, it's evocative. It is very observant. It sees observant.
Art is observant? Does that mean it sees you? I don't understand that.
It sees the world and funnels it into to a creative product.
How does it see the world?
Through the eyes of the artist.
The end product.
It's very. That's also. What was I going to say? I did forget.
Well, like a Picasso, how everything is disjointed, but that is
it's subjective
spin.
too. That's what I was trying to say. It's subjective. It's subjective between the artist and his audience. It's not objective. Some people will respond to a piece of art, and somebody else will look at it and go, "What's that? That means nothing to me. It doesn't evoke an emotion for me. It doesn't evoke." For art to be successful, it has to have an impact on its audience. It either makes them happy, it makes them sad, it makes them angry, it makes them melancholy, the whole gamut of human emotions. It's also somewhat magical. I think art has just a magical quality to it. You've seen art on caves forever. People have always been trying to depict the world around them.
Is a first grader's scribbling on a piece of paper art?
Can be. I know a lot of people who are fairly highbrow artists, and it's like, well, it's not good art. It's not, a perfect example of that is an illustrator. Norman Rockwell, well, that's not fine art. That's crap. Well, I'm fairly offended by that. I think that's a highbrow, very egotistical way to approach that type of photography. I used to be a photographer. There are so many different styles of photography, and they're all an art. Anytime you see a great artist and you are really moved by their image or their music, their lyrics, whatever, it kind of it has that resonance with you, and it's a tuning fork in your soul, and it just kind of, and a lot of times that's totally unconscious, I think, in my opinion.
You can join Chris, Michael Henry Lee, and the rest of St. Augustine's Ancient City Poets at their monthly Zoom meeting. For more information, go to bodor.org, BODOR.org. Up next, Stephanie Burkhart, lifelong dancer and executive artistic director of The Dance Company. She's going to share a couple anecdotes with us.
I don't know if it would be like that exciting to other people, but
It's all right,
I feel like my most exciting was in high school doing my senior solo on stage, because the first time I choreographed it myself, and it was the first time I ever performed on stage, like just by myself. So that was like huge for me. And a lot of times now kids like do solos when they're like 8 years old and stuff, but back in the day it was very rare that you did a solo, so that's like you waited till your senior year. And I feel like that was the first time that I felt like, wow, I was the only one on stage and everybody in the audience was like just watching me, and I chose the song and I chose the whole choreography, and it was very empowering to feel that and to know, and then to hear people like, oh, I really loved your song choice, or I loved this part, and I feel like that was when I was like, I have to keep doing this, like this isn't the end, like a lot of people stop after high school and do their thing, and I was like, I feel like I need more of this. So that I think was like the most empowering moment, being on stage for that. The funniest thing, I used to have super short hair, and in dance you have to wear your hair in a bun, and so my mom would buy me like these fake buns that I would have to like pin into my hair. So I would like slick back my super short hair, and then I'd have like this giant bun. And there was one time we were at a competition like on stage, and I guess I turned really fast and it fell off. So
the bun fell off.
So I was like, that actually happened to me twice. I should have learned after the first time. But yeah, and so like everybody's like kind of dancing and their eyes are like going to the corner, like, wait, what is it? Like it looked like a rat on stage or something. Like, what is that? And afterwards I just remember my teacher being like, was that your hair? Like run out and like just go scurry and like grab the bun and then just run off. Like
Thank you, Stephanie. And now we're going to hear from the girl who has her finger on the very pulse of the art scene in St. Augustine.
Brandy Boca Grande. Mwah, mwah. New Year's kisses, my darlings. Now, if you're like me and you're so happy to say goodbye to 2020 that you just feel like bursting into song, have I got the perfect opportunity for you. The St. Augustine Community Chorus is looking for new singers. No nerve-wracking auditions necessary. Just the love of choral singing and a commitment to attend weekly rehearsals. Get those pipes in tune and check out staugustincommunitychorus.org for details. staugustincommunitychorus.org. Here's great news for film lovers. The St. Augustine Film Festival goes virtual for 2021. This 11th annual event will screen 129 films online from January 14th to 24th. darlings, all those great films, and you can watch them in your pajamas. For more details, go to StAugustinefilmfest.com. StAugustinefilmfest.com. And darlings, if crime novels are up your dark, dangerous alley, keep an eye out for Ode to a Fallen Sparrow, the latest tome from local crime novelist and painter Kurt McGill, published by Pegasus Crime, Cambridge, England. Well, if you want to know what's new, my pussycats, Brandy's here to tell you local artist and teacher Tom Jones will be holding a watercolor workshop on Wednesday, January 13th and 20th at 10 a.m. at the Beach Art Studio. The cost is $35, and that includes all materials, paints, and yes, even lunch. It's not unusual to find that you have an inner artist yearning to break free, darlings. And finally, the Epicenter Alliance wants your opinion. The Alliance, headed by Albert Silas, is looking for input and ideas for a fabulous new performing arts center right here, darlings, in beautiful St. Augustine. Isn't it just too divine? Anyone can give input on their Facebook page, St. Augustine Epicenter for the Arts and Culture. Well, that's all from your girl, Brandy Bocagrande. So long and stay fabulous. Back to you, John.
Thank you, Brandy. And now, a word from graphic designer and lover of all things Italian, Caterina Bond Peretti. Caterina, what is art to you?
Art is beauty. Art is everywhere. Art is a feeling. It's inspiration. It's artistic expression. And it's my passion in life. A satisfaction. It made me happy. It feeds my soul. Creating art to me is like breathing air or needing something to eat.
When you say it feeds your soul, what does that mean?
It means that I could not live without creating art in my life. That to feel satisfied and happy and whole, I need to create art and express it in some manner. I absolutely need to create, whether it's for a job or just for fun, because that's a form of escape for me.
Yeah, it's a way to release some of that pent-up energy.
Yes.
You know, that's part of that expression as far as for me is I feel this energy inside of me that I need to release to get out.
Well, that's the artistic side of you that I cannot keep inside. I'll implode. Art is meant to be shared with others. It's a story and making a connection. So yeah, I can't keep all that inside.
How do you do that with your graphic art? What about it connects to people on that level?
Well, first you have to make the connection with your client. You have to listen and understand what they want to convey through the art and try to maintain the integrity of it while it evolves and you make changes to try and make it the best that it can be, so that when people look at it, it will tell a story immediately. They can glean something from what they're seeing. I think the social importance of art to any community is, again, sharing it with people. That's, to me, what it's all about, because I think art was intended for that reason from the beginning of time. We have cave paintings, and we have museums for artifacts, and we have music venues, and we have theaters for live performances, and all of that, creates a community that's rich in the arts. And I think that is a boon to a community.
Yeah.
And that people need art in their lives. It's beauty, and if there was ever a time when people need art in their lives to to help them, because art can be very therapeutic and healing. It's now.
A heartfelt sentiment, Katerina. Thank you. You've been listening to the music of conductor, composer, and singer Kurt Tucker. He's the artistic director of First Coast Opera and instructor at the Florida School of the Arts and our spotlight artist. But the transition in the performance aspects from singer to conductor, did you have a polyp on your throat or something? Did you have to stop singing, or were you compelled to move into conducting?
So no polyp, but there was an epiphany. Which sounds a little similar. So that story. So I was a voice major undergrad in this music education program. Summer times I went to Chautauqua and I was studying voice, and I decided I wasn't going to teach, and so I was going to continue singing. I was on that path. I was going to be a singer. All the while, my my faculty advisor, who was the choral conductor, had been trying to convince me that I should be a conductor, not a singer. But all along I was like, no, I'm going to sing. That's what I love to do. That's really exciting. I want to do that. And I was all set to do that. And we got to the end of my senior year, and I thought everything was all set. Well, right. So this was this big endeavor. Well, I'm the assistant of this professor. So we go to the convention hall, and all these people are there. That's 250 or so people involved in this production. He's up on a ladder, because you have to be seen by that many people. And I'm sitting down at a table just taking notes, and he'll holler a note down, and I write it down. That's my role. I'm just his assistant. So at one point in the process, he comes down the ladder, and he hands me his baton. He says, I want to go back and listen. So I go up the ladder, and I wave my arms, and I'm sure nobody paid any attention to me, but for me, it was the biggest rush I'd ever had in my life, because I felt like all of a sudden I'm up here leading 250 people making all sorts of glorious sounds, and I thought, wow, it was just such a rush that was it. And after that, I went back and we got back to his office, and I said, okay, you're right, I should conduct. How do I do that? It basically got me admitted over the phone. I picked one of those schools, and I went and got a master's degree in conducting instead of singing. That was the shift. I have always been at my core a singer, I think. Deep down, I'm a singer. When I compose, I'm writing as a singer. When I conduct as a singer. I mean, that's who I've always been at my core, and that's how I approach a lot of things. But, that was the moment that I switched professionally in my thinking into, what am I going to do musically in my life? And that's when I shifted to conducting, and that's where it's been ever since.
What is art, Kurt?
At its core, art is commentary on the human condition and everything that goes with that, whether it's intellectual, emotional, which I see is at the very center of all of it, and whether it's good, whether it's bad, just the entire range of all of those things. I mean, to live is to be artistic, really, or to be artistic is to live. I'm not sure which, but they are that intrinsically related, I think.
You said the art had no boundaries.
I don't think art has boundaries. Art is bounded only perhaps by the imagination of those creating the art and those experiencing the art. Many artists spend a lot of time by themselves with their art, but ultimately for that art to go anywhere else, it has to involve other people, whether it's other creators, or whether it's the people who experience the art, whether it's through a play or through an piece of art or whatever.
Let's say Picasso painted it and no one ever saw it. Would it still be art? Or is it only art when it's seen?
No, I think it's art when it's created. That's kind of a tree falls in the forest question, isn't it? No, it's I have one of the perhaps interesting and perhaps random parts of my background is that I have a law degree. And so what you just said made me think of copyright. Copyright exists from the moment of creation. I think art exists from the moment of creation. Art always, like everything, evolves, but art being fundamentally creative searches out the new, right? And so one way that you make something new is by taking two disparate existing things and trying to meld them together to create something different. I mean, that's really what we do in the arts, right? Preparation is fundamental to most things. I mean, even if you're a jazz musician and you're going to improvise, there's preparation into knowing even how to improvise. You know, knowing the harmonic progressions and all of those things. So I feel like what's similar about all those things, whether I'm singing, conducting, or composing, preparation is a big part of it. It's, you know, I guess the biggest difference that I will set is composing as opposed to conducting and singing. Conducting and singing, you're taking somebody else's material and you're trying to figure out how to replicate that, how to perform that. And you have to try and get in the mind of the composer. The composer shows you a lot of that on the page, but you still have to figure out how to make it work and how to make it work with what your skills allow you to do. And so there's a lot of evaluation of the material and maybe where that comes from, what inspired it. You know, in opera, there's always source material. You go back and you want to get as much information to provide context for bringing this thing to life. As a composer, you're the one, you know, putting it on the page, so there's still source material. Or when the librettist sends me text, I'll spend a lot of time just reading the and just trying to break it down into, I mean, every first libretto that he has sent me, by just about every single line is a number, because I've gone through and I figured, okay, how many syllables are in this line? How many syllables are in this line? And I'm looking for patterns.
You're suiting the music to the words, is that correct?
Yeah, there's that age-old question, which comes first, the words of the music? And it's funny to me that is such an age-old question, because the answer, I think, is pretty easy. The words come first. I mean, if you don't know what the text is, how do you know what kind of music to write? I mean, I don't, you can write a piece of music, in its own right, and instrumental writers write without text all the time, right? So you can write a piece of music and then somebody can go back and, and maybe I need to write a happy tune. I could write a happy tune and then somebody else can go back and add words to that. But I don't think that's usually there's some back and forth, for sure. But for me and in our process, it has always been, we may talk about the story. What do we want to do in the story?
Your process
and these characters with Nelson Sheely.
Right.
What is the story, and who are these characters, and what is it that we need to convey? But then he drafts the text and lays out the story. Lyrics, book. Sometimes there's dialogue. It lays that out, and then then I take that and try and figure out how to create the music to support that. It's kind of, it's a lot more like a film composer, I think. The film composer doesn't tell the screenwriter and the director, what they need to do. They create the movie, and then post-production, the music comes in. That's how it works in film. It's maybe not exactly the same in opera or music theater or something like that, but it's it's closer to that, I think. I take the story and the text and try and let that inspire. This really needs, we're building suspense here. I need music that does that. This is, I need, we've come along and we need a moment of, we've had all this fast pace that we need a moment to reflect. So it needs, the music needs to pull back for this moment, and then we'll go again. You think about how to tell the story through the music. For the most part, we work independently because we've never actually been in the same place when we've done them. He does the text and I do the music on mine, and he works a lot faster than I do, I will say. And sometimes I'll tweak things if I'm working on something musically and the text kind of works, but but the music sometimes does kind of take its own shape and have its own idea and want to do a certain thing, and the text maybe doesn't quite, maybe if I do that, now the accent's on the wrong syllable. Do I change the music, or can I ask, maybe I'll ask him, hey, can you give me a different phrase with the syllable accent on this syllable? It'll fit the music better.
That means the same thing, right?
Right. Yeah. There is that kind of give and take. And sometimes I'll even suggest to her, I'll write something like, that almost works not quite. If this word was in there, I think it would work. And I'll send that off to him. Hey, do you mind if we change this to that? And, so we certainly have some of that kind of back and forth.
When you are in the process of your creation, are you feeling emotion, and are you trying to emit that emotion to your audience? Are you trying to share that?
All the arts are emotion. That's where I started. Opera really is. How can you be successful with an audience in an opera? Make them feel something. That's really the benchmark. And opera does that because the music, the stories do it, but it's the music that gets inside you and makes you feel certain ways. And people love to go to the opera and be taken on this agonizing journey, falling in love with this character only to see them fade and then ultimately die at the end. And it's just exhausting. But so hardcore opera people, that's what they really love, are their tragedies. And I do too. It's great, but because you really feel something.
It's cathartic when you're done.
It is. But somehow the comedies really resonate with me. I like it. So Nelson and I, we basically write comic operas, which nobody does anymore. Most new operas now have to be about something really serious. PTSD or I don't know, just any things. The death penalty. Everything has to be about something really a serious societal issue, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's fun to just have some light, fun entertainment.
To have fun, yeah. With that. That's Kurt Tucker, folks. Thanks again.
Absolutely.
Join Kurt and First Coast Opera for Mozart versus Salieri, an evening of dinner and opera, a catered affair. February 12th and 13th. For more information, go to firstcoastopera.com, firstcoastopera.com. That wraps up this episode, folks. We appreciate your listening, and we want to know what you think. What is art, and what's its value to the community, if any? Maybe you've got a story you want to tell. Let us know at risingtideproductions158.com. That's risingtideproductions158.com. And who knows, you might be featured in a future episode. I'd like to say thank you to everybody who shared their thoughts with us today. Sonic Pistolero for the music, Corey Michael Smithson for still photography, Heather Eggleston for sound design and editing, Amy Lauer Golden and Jen Latka for the news, and the Beach Art Studio for the use of their beautiful space. I'm John, and we appreciate you listening. We're going to leave you now with a tease from Kurt McGill.
Art is not in the eye of the beholder.